impressions are nice, I guess, but how do you know if you can effectively resonate with the consumer? And it was really just showcasing that these creators have a direct touch point to the consumer and make them care about products and really humanize what these brands are doing. One of the first brands to really buy into the influencer marketing space was Cobra Puma back in the day, in the late 2017, 2018. They were the first ones to really buy into influencer marketing, where we really seeded products to a bunch of influencers, and it seemed like everybody on social had a Cobra driver back then. And I think they really paved the way for a lot that happened that now all these other companies are now adopting as a necessary piece to their business. I think gone are the days of just saturating the marketplace and getting products in the hands of everybody. Now I think there's more importance on quality storytellers, right? That can bring these brands and products to life in a meaningful and impactful way.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Content Clubhouse podcast presented by The First Call. This week, truly one of the most fun conversations I've had recording this podcast with none other than Sean Guerrero. He wears a lot of different hats: executive producer for a golf travel show on CBS, also a co-founder and head of the Digital Golf Collective, one of the staple companies in the creator golf economy. He and I go deep on the origins of golf and social media about 10 years ago, seeing how it's grown through the pandemic, the explosion in the popularity of golf, and also the rapid adjustment to the Wild West that is golf content management business, you name it. That and a few interesting bites from his travels that include out to St. Andrews, the Masters, and more than a couple Guinnesses consumed along the way. So without further ado, here's Sean Guerrero. Sean Guerrero here on the Content Clubhouse podcast. Sean, yours is a name well known in this very tight circle that is golf media and business that we inhabit every day. And for those listening that don't know why that is, they're going to find out shortly. But first, I got to start with this. I don't know that anybody outside of maybe Rory McIlroy or Scotty Scheffler has had a better golf year than you. In 2025, your work has taken you to Wednesday at the Masters, Old Course at St. Andrews, Bethpage Black for the Ryder Cup. Which one takes the top spot in your highlight reel, assuming that it's done? Maybe you've got something else coming.
I mean, the year's not done yet. I don't want to, sell myself short on, finishing up the year strong, but it's been an amazing run. And the golf industry is just awesome. And everybody in it is just amazing, and just doing things to just continually grow this industry is just special to be a part of. But being at the Old Course, I mean, you can't really beat that. I mean, but being at the Masters too, like, you can't beat that. I mean, you're rocking on your head. I mean, that is both are equal bucket list opportunities.
For sure. I gotta say, I'm probably the most jealous of the Guinness posts on your Instagram as a Guinness enjoyer myself. That one was really that might, like, peach ice cream and pimento cheese sandwiches are good, but they're not serving those beers.
Exactly. Yeah, I was in Scotland at the Old Course in St. Andrews with Travis Matthew. They hold their ambassador summit there the last couple of years. So this was summit number 2. And last year we really took to splitting the G of Guinness, and all of us on the trip just made it a thing that we couldn't leave until we split the G perfectly in the Guinness logo. For those who don't know, in one continuous sip, splitting the G in the Guinness logo. And I mean, it must have taken me like 30 tries to get it, year 1. But year 2, I came prepared, I came ready. And yeah, it was a lot of fun with everybody. But
yeah. On the subject of marketing, like, whoever at Guinness came up with that as a means to, because like you said, take you 30 tries, like, oh, don't do it on the first one. Guess I got to drink 6 more of them to figure it out.
It's not like you can refill it. You have to finish it and then order a new one.
Exactly.
And for those doing math, I might have drank in 30, but That's for another conversation.
Nobody's keeping count.
It's a judgment-free zone. Yeah.
So quickly walk us through a little bit. So to kind of give some context for the listeners, you are, well, I honestly struggle to kind of label you within this industry with all that you've done. You co-founded a company called the Digital Golf Collective, which really is at the forefront of kind of basically the cross section of the creator economy and golf. Also, you started way back when a website turned into a very popular social channel called Golf Bald. Now you're doing some TV stuff with CBS that I'm really pumped to talk about. But how would you kind of describe where you fit into this whole thing? I'm sure you can do a better job than me.
I mean, my core expertise is just brand marketing within golf. I've been in the space since 2009. And somehow transformed a hobby into a career. I guess just walking you through the historicals of everything and how everything kind of matched up. Launched a golf review website in 2009 as just a way to get cool stuff for me and my buddies. And, wrote some golf ball reviews, launched a forum, and ended up growing that to be one of the top 3 most traffic sites in the golf internets back then, and got in early before the industry was very saturated with a lot of review sites. So had the opportunity to really nurture and grow the relationships with all of the manufacturers and golf brands. So did a lot for them in increasing their presence online, but then started to see a lot of their budgets veering from traditional advertising like banner ads and email blasts. So I really saw social being the next big wave. So really pivoted the company's focus to social in like 2012, 2013. Just messing around, posting memes and funny stuff that made me laugh on Golf Bald. Started growing that as a means to aggregate traffic to promote different partnerships and everything like that. I actually launched the first influencer marketing campaign in golf in 2015, 2016, and didn't know what we were doing back then. It was just me and a bunch of my friends online and different influencers just coming together on a campaign. It was for a tee time booking engine site back then. That was the very first influencer marketing campaign in golf. And it's so funny, the guy that I did that with is now the head of digital at PGA of America. So that vision kind of continually grew. Spent the next several years kind of yelling at all the golf companies to get on board with social because it was going to be the next big wave, and partnered with an amazing partner to co-found Digital Golf Collective in 2019. The boom of the pandemic kind of skyrocketed golf and the need for strong digital strategy. So we became more valuable than ever. So Digital Golf Collective and ushering in the age of influencer marketing was just the natural, next thing that really helped catapult the sport and effectively promoting products and brands and things like that. And then got acquired by United Talent Agency in 2022, and they own Clutch Sports. So Digital Golf Collective is now under the Clutch Sports umbrella, and now I oversee brand advisory for Clutch and am head of Digital Golf Collective, and just have a finger on the pulse of a lot that goes on in golf behind the scenes, and just a resource for a lot of these major brands to kind of fuel their marketing.
Yeah. And one of the most interesting things I think about you specifically is you, as you put it, kind of were there in the beginning, and now standing here today, just recently, a company that started as a YouTube channel is now announced as the title sponsor for a PGA Tour event. And to people like you and me, it makes perfect sense. But even in this industry, I think the biggest question was wow, how in the world did we get here? But you have seen it evolve from the very beginning. But even so, 10 years ago, would you have believed we'd be in a world now in 2025 where the winner of the Good Championship gets a 2-year exemption on the PGA Tour?
I had no idea it would even get this big, but I truly root for everybody in the space, because it just creates more opportunities for all of us, whether you're one of my friends or I work with you. Like, I genuinely root for everybody in the space because it just creates more room for everybody. So I absolutely love to see it. I've known Garrett since he was a teenager, and I'm just so proud of how he's grown his brand and the company and just an empire. He's doing amazing things for the sport.
Yeah, it is truly wild. And, thinking about and having conversations, about the content creator economy in golf, we often use this phrase like the Wild West because it's still really new in terms of everybody figuring out how this is going to work. What should this contract look like? For so many of these brands, this is the very first time that they're interacting with a content creator in sort of a business relationship. But I loved what you described kind of in telling your story about like yelling at golf brands like, hey, you need to get involved with this. Like, tell us a little bit more about those early conversations. Were you like having to explain to execs at insert golf brand here, say, hey, this is Instagram, this is going to be important? Like, what did that look like?
There were a lot of those conversations, but it was just a one-to-one comparison of direct engagement and access to golf consumers where they live, where they spend most of their time, on their captivated devices, and coming up with creative new ways to reach those eyeballs, where, I would go through numerous presentations of, effective golf marketing on TV, static ads, banner ads, things like that. And just how there's a lot of click attrition when it comes to, losing eyeballs and not being sure of how well they're converting. So impressions are nice, I guess, but how do you know if you can effectively resonate with the consumer? And it was really just showcasing that these creators have a direct touch point to the consumer and make them care about products and really humanize what these brands are doing. I think, one of the first brands to really buy into the influencer marketing space was Cobra Puma back in the day, in the late, I think 2017, 2018. They were the first ones to really buy into influencer marketing, where, we really seeded products to a bunch of influencers, and it seemed like everybody on social had a Cobra driver back then. And I think they really paved the way for a lot that happened that now all these other companies are now adopting as a necessary piece to their business. My agency is now the marketing agency of record for Callaway Golf. So we help with their influencer marketing strategy, content strategy, and things like that. And it is a major part of the business because we've seen and metrics show that it really does move the needle and, does a lot to make these products and companies relatable.
Yeah. I mean, it certainly does. I mean, nowadays you walk into the chief marketing officer's office at any of one of these top brands, like they understand the importance of the impact that content creators have and how they can be one of the primary ways that you reach the audience you're looking for. But early on, was that a hard sell at any point? Was there ever a point that you kind of thought, oh, is this a fad? Is this going the right direction? And then when did you know, hey, actually, this is the future?
I mean, I didn't think it was a fad that was going to go away because just the momentum, it was just too strong. Back then, I was unsure which platform was going to survive. I mean, I've been around for a while, so I mean, I was there for the Friendster, MySpace, early Facebook days, and then all these new platforms start popping up. So you back then we didn't know who was going to last, but the writing was on the wall that social media was going to be the new age digital business card. And, they needed to invest in social in some capacity. So I'm glad everybody is finally caught up.
Yeah. Well, again, you mentioned being, getting in on the ground floor and being a co-founder of the Digital Golf Collective, which is now, grown and, as you said, been acquired, but really like one of the biggest names in the business. What were some of the biggest challenges, though, of getting that, off the ground? It was pre-COVID, right? So the golf boom hadn't yet happened when you started it. What were some of those early days like, trying to figure out, like, is this a viable, I guess, was it a viable business right from the jump?
Well, by that time, I had already been in the golf business for 10 years. So, going to the PGA show every single year, networking, creating those relationships, I knew there was a business already there, because I was already doing it. I already had, some of the tournaments buy into it, I remember Genesis, back when it was Genesis Open, over at Riv, coordinating their fan engagement strategy through digital and helping support that in like 2018. So it was really aligning some test cases and the early adopter businesses and tournaments that bought in, and then showing the return, the direct ROI, the direct reach, and some of the amazing content that we were creating using those case studies as, like, this is real, this is where everything's headed. And, took some time, but, they ended up buying in.
Yeah. And looking at, again, the golf is one of the rare industries. I'm sure there are probably others where I don't want to say that the pandemic, it certainly was not looked at as a good thing, but it's undeniable that a lot of good came out of it in a way, in terms of the massive explosion of interest in golf, number of rounds played. And that's obviously had this trickle down effect, in the content influencer marketing space. But I would just be curious to hear you kind of expound upon just how much that did for this industry and your work within it, just that expansive growth time.
When the pandemic first hit, it was really scary because we had just launched our agency in 2019. We launched outwardly end of 2019. So when the pandemic hit, we actually had a whole book of business already papered and contracted and signed off on. Pandemic hit, and we lost tons of revenue and tons of contracts because nobody knew what was going to happen next. So that was probably the scariest time in my career, because I had let go of other past projects and went all in on this. And I was like, wow, is this going to last? But it was the perfect, I don't want to say more positive things about a pandemic, but it was the perfect convergence of, needing to veer away from, the fan experience and brick and mortar stores and those things existing, which the industry was predicated upon, to really expand their way of thinking to new ways to get in front of the consumer. And digital was it. They needed to rely on digital strategy in order to survive or open up that next chapter. And the pandemic just accelerated it. So while it was scary, we just put our heads down, grinded it out, and, made sure we were, necessary in all future conversations.
Yeah. Well, again, looking now here 5 years later in 2025, where again, we've got the Good Championship coming next fall. You've got more golf content creators, not only successful ones, but also just purely in volume than there's ever been. And that's the same for really every other industry in the content space. But how would you say the landscape has changed specifically over the last, few years, in terms of, like, it's grown so much that how do you stay relevant, I guess, is the better question. What have you noticed in changes in trends in terms of what's functional with your work with clients, what's popular, what's the best mix of both?
Yeah, I think as the influencer space has grown and so many creators and voices in golf now, it's how can a brand show up in an impactful or meaningful way, because there's so many options. So I think gone are the days of just saturating the marketplace and getting, products in the hands of everybody. That was better for 10 years ago because it was more of a controlled environment. There weren't as many on the block. Now I think there's more importance on quality storytellers, right? That can bring these brands and products to life in a meaningful and impactful way that resonate with the consumer. So I think investing in a handful of great storytellers is the leg up now, and investing in paid media. So not just the influencer marketing piece or investing in an athlete, but getting those face figures and then using paid media to effectively target the consumer that they're looking for, instead of relying on the algorithm to hopefully target the small percentage of followers that they really want to get in front of. So that's something that I'm really trying to champion across the industry now, and something we're leading with Callaway and a lot of other people, where we're taking over their paid media budget so they can effectively target the end consumer.
Yeah, you use that phrase storytelling, which I think is the perfect descriptor for what essentially marketing and advertising has become. It's what it requires of you now, right? Because it's not just enough, as you said, to get the clubs in the hands of Grant Horvat or what have you, because everybody's trying to do that same thing. It's how can you tell that story differently? In your own work, or maybe some examples you've seen, who do you think really does that well nowadays in the golf space?
I mean, there are a lot of really good storytellers that really put their all into it. I'm trying to come up with some examples. I think a good example of somebody that I use continually is Coach Rusty, right? Where he got his start as a golf coach, figured out he could do trick shots, became a trick shot artist, but something that he did was continually reinvent himself or do something new each year with a new series or a reason why you care about what he's doing, right? And now it even opened the door for him to become a real artist, and he's just leaning into his passion, right? He's being vulnerable, letting people in, taking people along their journey to really showcase his passion. So he's doing something that continually reinvents his brand, which is valuable for how to bring products to life, as opposed to, oh, thank you, brand XYZ, for giving me this. You're actually making people care about you as an individual, so they're going to care about the products that you're speaking to.
That's something I've heard pretty consistently from a lot of the creators we've spoken to about their brand partnerships, right? Like they want to avoid, if at all possible, the, hey, this is XYZ golf brand that I'm playing. Because, right, it just doesn't feel natural. It's their audience knows from the jump, hey, this is
brand awareness on the surface to showcase new brands in the industry. So there is a place for it, but, I think sorry for interrupting. Yeah.
Oh, no, please feel free to do so at any time. But yeah, the idea of how can we weave in, marketing and these products in a way that feels natural, in a way that aligns with what the creator likes to do, in a way that aligns with what the brand likes to do. As somebody in your position who works really with both sides, right? You have talent that you work on behalf of and represent in the creator space. You also do plenty of advising and work for the brands themselves. What do you think is like the biggest key to I guess succeeding in that? Because it's a fine line, right, between accomplishing what accounting wants done from a sales perspective, while also really making sure you're hitting the right notes from a storytelling perspective.
Well, I think when we dive in with brands, we dive in on different levels, right? Whether it's their holistic approach to social and digital strategy, like cultivating their brand voice, their brand feel, kind of designing their content to engage multiple types of consumers, and putting together those buckets so they are armed with enough content to directly reach those various consumers and create unique ways of bringing their products to life. So kind of establishing that foundation is key for any brand, and then kind of working backwards to be like, okay, we're focused on this type of demographic, and then aligning the right storytellers and creators to kind of bring that content wing to life. So actually having that overarching strategy and being thoughtful with what you want to do with your marketing is key. It's number one. And then working backwards to align the right talent, whether it's an athlete, an ambassador, a content creator, an influencer, whatever, to help, push that product down that path.
Yeah. Well, switching a little bit here to your totally separate side of your work that you do, and that's as executive producer of This Is Golf on CBS. So first of all, like, it's very cool. Extremely, like, when I saw it, I was like, wow, like, that feels a little out of left field at first. I'm like, okay, now I guess there's got to be some connective tissue there. How did you get involved with that? And tell us a little bit about that project and your role in it.
So I was brought into this project because of my connections in the golf space. It was originally supposed to be to just align some partnerships to kind of fund production for this fun new project. It just kept growing in scale, and because of my expertise in the space, I became one of the executive producers, and it has been probably one of my favorite creative new outlets because anything is possible, right? So we have this show, This Is Golf, airs nationwide and is syndicated on CBS and a lot of other affiliate channels. But largely it is a golf and lifestyle travel show to showcase golf as a lifestyle. And we travel to, all these bucket list courses and showcase a lot of the signature holes or signature offerings that the course or resort offers. And then really just showcase the surrounding areas and, the communities surrounding these bucket list courses. But we also do bucket list courses, but hidden gems and various other courses around the nation. And because of that kind of landscape that we've built, options are endless for how we can integrate. We have guest stars on the show with our host, kind of going along the journey. So, we've had people like Wells Adams. We've had various athletes like Archie Bradley. We've had various influencers like Blair Wheeler. I think you've interviewed him before. Yeah. So it showcases the vast range of popularity of the sport, right? So it's really just opened up a new landscape to be creative, to just pull together various partners in a fun way.
Yeah, something that I think is especially interesting about this concept, right, is you're someone who has spent, the last decade plus, again, telling a lot of these brands, hey, social is the way this thing is going. And you've been right. And that's not to say that social can't be the present and future. That doesn't mean that there's not room for television. But I think that it's very interesting that usually it's the other way around, right? You may have built your career in the original medium, TV, not to say anything of radio, but that's for another time. But usually it's kind of the other way. But like here, you've kind of, I don't want to say gone back in time is certainly not the right word, but what made you want to get involved in television when you'd kind of been so previously involved purely on the digital side?
It was a great opportunity to get involved in broadcast television. I mean, and just to be on that side of the camera to see how all that works has been amazing, right? And it's also available on all types of streaming networks, and we also create a lot of digital assets for the partners and sponsors of the show. So not only do they get the extreme visibility of network television nationwide, but we also do create digital assets for a lot of our brand partners. So again, it's just another outlet for how I can achieve more visibility for a lot of these brands in the golf space. I've always believed in aggregating traffic and pointing them in the right direction. And this is just, while it may seem a little random, it's just another outlet that I've kind of aggregated as a means to point visibility for these various brands.
Yeah. Well, and again, you along with Good, right? Like, again, started as a YouTube channel. Here they are getting involved with what has historically been like the oldest, most traditional sport on TV that you could be watching, which is professional golf. But if they're doing it, they're not dumb. They didn't get this far, right, by buying into the wrong thing. So I just think it's very interesting, that intersection between old and new and reaching those different audiences, between who's watching, on cable television, on CBS. But again, you're probably right. I'm sure going to have viewers who are catching it live, on their cable subscription, but then I'm sure you've got countless people who are exposed to it for the first time through digital as well.
Yeah, I mean, another attractive part is we have a national time slot surrounding PGA Tour coverage on Saturdays. So we have that captivated golf audience. And, I would love more people to tune into PGA Tour and events, because more viewership, creates more opportunities for all of us. And, I don't think, television is going to die as a means of entertainment. So, having this property surrounding PGA Tour, which, I'm pretty hopeful that the tour is going nowhere. I think, I've always wanted to strengthen, ways to get more visibility on PGA Tour, and just having that outlet surrounding it, I think was just kind of a no-brainer for me.
Yeah. Pro golf, at the end of the day, people are going to enjoy watching it. I know I certainly do. As you said, having, checking out whether it's your favorite golf course reviewer on Instagram or checking out your show, seeing these awesome places that so many of us have never been to, or if we're lucky, might go once in our lives, there's always going to be an appeal to that. So, before I get you out of here, I do want to talk about some of the places. So you mentioned working with Blair. I think you guys were out at Pinehurst number 2. You've gone out to PGA Frisco for a couple episodes, which I was actually just there last week. Really, really awesome place. Been to Torrey Pines. What were some of the personal highlights for you for season 1, and what can people expect for some future episodes?
So season 1 of This Is Golf, Pinehurst was definitely the highlight. So in season 1, we did Pinehurst number 2, obviously bucket list, and Blair Wheeler was our guest star with our host Evan Michael, and they teed off from the championship plates and got the full U.S. Open experience. And it was so funny. Our host actually hit into that bunker, the famous Bryson bunker on 18, in the same exact area that he did. So he had to muscle up a shot out of there, and that is not easy. I mean, Bryson's a beast, so obviously he can muscle it up there. Us mere mortals needed, take 2 and 3 to get out of there. But, Pinehurst was definitely a special experience, because that is just Disneyland for golfers, and that entire resort and everything they have there is just amazing. We were there for Easter weekend, so it was great to see families there, and all the kids getting into golf, and that was truly special. But in that North Carolina trek, playing Tobacco Road was super special. That course design is unlike anything I've ever experienced or played in my life. So that was also a really, really cool highlight. And then, Torrey Pines was really cool. We got to follow the Farmers Insurance Open Pro-Am. So Alyssa Kesar, who's been the social media host of that tournament for the last, I think, 5 years, was one of the guest stars. And that one was a really fun, highlighted episode as well. So we went to some pretty cool courses.
Yeah. Well, anything you can tease for future seasons, or anything coming up?
I'm literally arranging that as we speak. I see a bunch of missed texts right now from that thread asking for updates. So we have a couple of areas in mind. It looks like we're going to be in southern Utah, and some of that golf is bucket list. So we're going to be able to showcase that amazingly. I'm really looking forward to that. And we have a couple of other really cool trips planned for that as well.
Very cool. Well, I'll let you get back to work over there on the West Coast, but really appreciate the time again, Sean. You can follow him as well. Usually at this point, we kind of kick to the social handles. You got a pretty good social following yourself, so check him out on Instagram at Sean Guerrero. You can track all of his extremely envy-inducing golf travels. But again, thanks so much, Sean. Appreciate the conversation.
Hey, thanks for having me. Really enjoyed this.